Hello everybody, this is Nick Totiro, Professor of Information Technologies and Computer Science, Lakeland Community College. All right, there's a lot of moving parts associated with this video. I was in a classroom, I'm plugging things in, plugging things out, and I'm holding something here. So a lot of moving parts, no pun intended. But basically, this is a keylogger. It's a pretty sophisticated keylogger, which means that it's an inline attack. I have to put this device between the computer and the keyboard, and this is just a USB drive or a USB device. So it just kind of sits there quietly between the keyboard and the computer, and as people type stuff onto the keyboard, it's capturing that information. Now, this is a fairly sophisticated one. Keyloggers have been around for a while now, probably decades. This one, not going to go into its nuances, but this one's pretty sophisticated where it actually has Linux on the inside. It has Wi-Fi capability, so it can communicate to a destination over Wi-Fi. You can set things up. It can also do injection attacks and different things, potentially for different videos. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how and what was captured, and then eventually how we can protect ourselves from these type of devices. So, hope you enjoy. Okay, I am standing in one of my classrooms to kind of do a demonstration. You have heard me say this many times. If I can touch it, I can own it. And in my hand here, it's pretty sophisticated, but we're not going to go down its doodads and stuff like that. But this is a keylogger. It's an inline attack, which means I physically have to touch the machine. I have to put this is a keyboard logger, put this between the keyboard and the computer. And once I do that, once I've touched it, it will start recording all the keystrokes, right? Everything I'm going to do. So this video is going to be broken up into different parts. One of the parts is me just installing it, and that's fairly easy. If I open up the back of the case, and I've already done this, but if I know what is the keyboard USB, I can plug it in. Now I'm also going to record it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record the lights on the keylogger. You can see that it's blinking different colors. The colors mean something. Excuse me. The colors mean something. And once we get to a certain point, once it gets past the magenta and it goes to white, it's going to tell me you haven't plugged the keyboard in yet. So now it's at white, and now I'm going to plug the keyboard. It's a little hard to plug in stuff. So I plugged in the keyboard, and obviously I want to do this a little stealthy. Touching other people's equipment is not a good thing to do. You may have seen it in TV shows and stuff like that. Again, this is just a demonstration of if I can physically get to a particular device, there is a whole bunch of things I can do. So I can physically touch the machine, I can put in the keylogger, and this is a pretty sophisticated keylogger. We're not going to go into all its bells and whistles, but right now, if I start typing on this machine over here, it's going to gather information. I'm now at this machine, all right? So I'm going to start recording on this machine so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So it's recording. And here I am at this machine, and if I go to if I go to the, what do you call it, a browser, yeah, I got it. Let's say I don't go to a browser. Let's say I go to a word processor. And in this word processor, I just tell it the quick, and I know I misspelled it, brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. And I'm going to put the date and time. And it is about 13:52, right? It's really down here. And there, I type some stuff. Now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to save this. I'm going to go to my Lakeland account. and I'm going to log in with my Lakeland account. And let's see what information it gathers. Now, this video also is going to talk about the importance of two-factor authentication. So I have two-factor authentication on my with my Lakeland login. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start recording my screen. All right, I'm now recording my screen. A lot of this I'm going to cut out. Okay, I'm going to turn on my two-factor authentication, and I'm going to log into Lakeland. Now, obviously, when I'm done with this video, I will change my password and put my username and put my Lakeland password. Not going to tell you what it is. Hit enter. And it's going to say, do I want to authenticate? Now, there's two ways to authenticate. I strongly encourage people to use either Google Authenticator or the Microsoft Authenticator. Can you use to send my email? Yes, but that means that you had to give that organization your email. By using the Google Authenticator, which I use, or the Microsoft Authenticator, I don't have to give anybody my email. So I'm going to use the Authenticator, and my current code is running out of code time, so I'm going to get a new current code. Not going to tell you what it is. And I'm going to submit. And now I'm logged into my Lakeland account. And you will see this, all right? You're going to see pieces, parts of this. Somebody might be, what if I use incognito? Okay, fine. Let me log out of this. So I'm just clicking away. And I'm going to go back to the screen. And this time I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to do an incognito. And I'm going to go to Lakeland. And you can see up here, it's telling me I'm incognito, so I'm going to log into Lakeland again. I'm going to use my credentials. Oops. I type my password in my account. I'm going to do the authenticator again. I'm kind of coming down to the wire on the authenticator. So let me get a new fresh number. Try it again. All right, and I'm back logged into Lakeland. I'm going to log out. Close this all up. Okay, we've done the manual part. Again, if I can touch that device, I can own that device. If I can touch it, I can own it. So I was able to put the keylogger in there. Obviously, if this was a real pen test or a real attack, I'm going to be very, very stealthy associated with that. Now I'm back in my lair, or back in my office, and I now have this device, and there's a whole bunch of keystrokes on this. Now remember some of the keystrokes I did. I did shifts, I did normal typing, I did backspace. This device, these devices are designed to pick up every keystroke. So the data we're going to see may not be what you think it is, but it's going to have a lot of information associated with it. So let me plug this into my computer. Okay, now I'm going to put it into collection mode. we go. And now I'm just going to go to a file viewer. And let me, okay. So here is my Windows file viewer. And if I scroll down, there is my Keyloggers. That's the brand name that I'm using. Not going to do a commercial for them. They have a lot of products out there. It's called hack5.org. They have a lot of products out there. If I open it up, again, this is a fairly sophisticated keylogger, but I'm more concerned with just looking at the raw data at this particular point. So I'm going to see what I have. Whoops. And I'm going to go to loot. And don't worry about the dates. For some reason, the dates don't want to come up clearly. I'm going to go to a particular folder, and I'm going to go to view. Or just open up. It's just a text file. Let me see if I can make this just a little bit bigger. There we go. All right. What you are seeing is basically the raw data that I was collecting. You'll notice that I typed Notepad, then I hit Enter. I then did a Shift, and inside Notepad, I did the quick. You notice I did Shift-T, Shift, and then HE. I misspelled quick. I backspace, replaced it. Brown Fox jumped over. You'll notice that I put the dates again. I misspelled it. Now it's time to look for things. If you're familiar with Linux, I would probably recommend, if you're going down these type of paths and really investigating text files, you need to learn regular expressions. But there appears to be a username, all right? Not quite sure what the 52 is. It appears that there's a shift 52. And then shift tab, okay, shift. And then all of a sudden, here's the tab. Now remember, think about this. This is grabbing every keystroke, right? So I typed Endotero. Again, I'm not quite sure where the 52 came from. I would have to investigate that. But that's pretty interesting. I discovered a name. Then I hit tab. Why do we hit tab? Well, we jump from one form to another form by hitting tab. You'll notice that I hit shift a couple times. Not quite sure why I hit a couple times, just typing away. And then there's an exclamation point. And then shift again, and then an uppercase H, and then, ELLO253, shift. Again, I'm going after an exclamation point, and then I hit enter. So if I begin to break this down, I have exclamation point, uppercase H, ELLO2355, exclamation point. That looks like a password to me, right? So I've now discovered a password. This is capturing all the keystrokes. So it's just going to say, oh, this is a password. I have to learn to evaluate this. Now, the next step is, remember the two-factor authentication, right? And if we were to go back into our two-factor authentication, and if you remember from the video, I started to type the first three digits of the two-factor authentication, 653, and I said, no, I'm running out of time, backspace, 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 3 backspace, actually 4 or 5 backspace, and then I typed in the new two-factor authentication. Now, they've compromised my password, right? The password has been compromised. And what am I going to do? They put a keylogger in there. But here's where the power of two-factor authentication comes into play. Yeah, they captured that code. They eventually captured the 729744. They have my password. They have a one-time password from the authenticator. The next time I log in, it's going to be a new code. So even though they compromised my password, which is not a good thing, they compromised my password and they compromised a one-time use code, who cares at this point? So the keyloggers are dangerous, but you can see how it was thwarted with a little bit of thwarting with the two-factor authentication. The bad guys still have my password. Let's be honest about that. Now here, I'm going to, here's some other stuff, and you can see that I relogged in. Oh, if you remember, I logged in with the incognito. Same thing. There's the password. Well, there's the password. I typed it wrong, but there's the username, Endatiro, shift tab, hello 2355, exclamation point. Here is another code. I made some typos there. It's gathering all that particular information. So let's wrap some things up here. A lot of things going on here, right? The keylogger required that I physically touch the device, that I get to the device and I put there and there. Now, this keylogger, I end up taking it back and then firing it up just like it's a USB drive. I could have kept it on there for days, weeks, months. I could program this keylogger to send all this information to a website, and I can gather the information real time. This particular keylogger does have a flavor of Linux built into it, so it has a secure shell. So if I don't want to send it up to the website, I can connect into it. So once I've made that initial breach of touching the device, I now basically own it, and I can start gathering information. I've gathered a password. The password without the two-factor authentication, you're going to have difficulty. But let me pose a question. How many of you reuse your passwords? You use the same password over and over and over again for multiple accounts. I have a password now, right? I've changed before I go any further, I've changed my password. So the exclamation point, hello, 2355 exclamation point is not my password. I changed it. Actually, I had an old password. I made it hello, 2355 exclamation. I did all this lab and then I changed it back. So you can't use that password. Even if you did, I've never used it anyplace else. So, but anyways, they compromised my password. If I'm not using two-factor authentication and I'm using that password someplace else, they're going to compromise my account. So we see the importance of two-factor authentication. We see the importance of not reusing passwords, right? Because maybe your password gets compromised, or you go to another site, use the same password without two-factor authentication. Many people do that. Your systems are then compromised. The other ways that we have to be careful with these type of devices as professionals is sometimes we have to look if equipment has been moved around. If you're dealing with a laptop, a desktop underneath the desk or a tower underneath the desk, and you notice that things have been moving around, you need to check and see. What if you're at a open lab or an open environment? Why don't you look behind to see if there's any technology between the input devices, the keyboard devices and stuff like that, and then the actual hardware. There's actually devices, I do not have one, I'm not going to spend the money on, but you could actually capture the screen image and send the screen image over the internet to a destination. So these type of inline attacks are dangerous because you're grabbing raw data. You still need to get the physical access to the given machine. So ways to thwart them is to always check those given machines. If things move around, see what's behind there. Don't trust it. If you're in an open lab environment, you have to look at these things. So a lot of little nuances associated. I thought it was a pretty interesting event here, me doing this keylogger. There's a lot of other tools, like there's these keylogger. The keylogger can also do an injection attack. They have screen loggers. We just have to be careful. If I can touch that device, I own that device. So that being said, let's go and learn something.